This video is sponsored by Padcaster. But hold that thought. Yeah, you know what? Let's not hold that thought, because here's what just happened over the past couple of days. I get an email from a guy named Josh, whose products I recognize immediately, if not well, Padcaster and Parrot. Now, I use a teleprompter, and although I don't use their teleprompter, I know that Parrot is a popular, portable, smartphone-centric, call it mini prompter. Not my cup of tea. I prefer something larger and in fact have my own jury-rigged teleprompter setup, but hey, I'm used to being a statistical outlier. Hold that thought. Turns out Josh is a nice guy. His company has a new prompter coming up on Kickstarter called the Parrot Pro. He wonders if I might take a look, and although he only mentions it in passing, it also turns out that a teleprompter I'd reviewed favorably back in 2021 and have used as my daily driver ever since, the Dept T3 to be precise, infringes upon a Padcaster patent. Now, I don't like IP pirates, and on principle, to be clear, I have no obligation to do this, I tell Josh that I'll stop using the Dept immediately, and if he wants to send me a sample of their Parrot Pro, I'm happy to take a look. Long story short, I get the Parrot Pro, I try it out, I'm using it right now, I like it, and I'll use it going forward because I have a soft spot for small businesses, nice people, and things that are relatively futz-free. I'll get into the details in a bit, but as you're about to find out, I don't think hardware is actually the most important thing for great teleprompting anyway. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and right, Padcaster is sponsoring this video, and I'm putting a link to Josh's Kickstarter campaign for their new Parrot Pro teleprompter down in the show notes below. I encourage you to check them out. But since they've got a track record for actually delivering stuff from their previous Kickstarter project, and they have a nice video explainer there that tells you pretty much everything you need to know. And I will say, simply, it is the best mini prompter I've seen for YouTubers out in the field. I figure I'll devote most of this video to sharing with you a few things I've learned over the past 6 years of using teleprompters myself. So let's get into it. 1. The script is as important, more important actually, I think, than the teleprompter itself. This is because I think that the art of writing is the art of thinking, the art of rewriting, the art of thinking more deeply, and no one is going to tune into my channel anyway, or yours most likely, because either of us is
really ridiculously good looking.
It's about substance and one's unique voice, not as in baritone versus tenor, but point of view and style. So the very first tip I have for you is this: spend a heck of a lot more time preparing before you ever go on camera. Think through precisely what you want to say. And by that I mean write, rewrite, and then rewrite some more, until you have honed your presentation to the point that, were it you on the other side of the screen, that is a viewer investing the time to watch and listen to it, you'd feel you hadn't wasted your time. As the scriptwriter, find as many errors, omissions, or inconsistencies as you can and fix them before you go in front of the camera. Now, some of us can do this all at one sitting, but others, including yours truly, will often take days, sometimes weeks, truly, to get it right. What can I say? There's a reason why most companies think I'm, well, actually the slowest YouTuber in this segment. 2, related to 1, write the way you actually speak. Because to do anything else would be inauthentic. And authenticity is critically important, not only for your audience, but for you, for yourself. It's simply much easier to be yourself on camera and ultimately more valuable than trying to be anybody else. There's too much of that already on YouTube. Then again, authenticity itself is not enough. One can be, for example, an authentic hole, and that is a waste of everyone's time. In other words, at the risk of belaboring the point, what you have to say, the process by which you come to say it, is more important than how you say it. Although, yeah, okay, how you say it helps. 3, once you feel comfortable with what you've written, do a dry run, or 2 or 3, out loud, before you put your script to bed. You may often find, as I do, that the words don't flow or that you hear what you missed when writing only. Maybe that joke you put in there in the last draft just isn't very funny, or worse, tone deaf. 4. But with all of this said, leave room in your script, literally, as in extra empty lines for riffing. You are, after all, writing a script for yourself. You know yourself. And if you know you're good at thinking and speaking off the cuff, give yourself the room to do so. Give yourself and your audience the gift of spontaneity. Although, 5, comport yourself physically. That is, move, gesticulate, pause for the flub and the edit that follows. Because teleprompter or not, every single human being ever born has flubbed lines. The key is to minimize the work required to fix those flubbed lines. So now let's talk about your movement and finally about the gear. Like, yes, of course, a teleprompter, but also a dedicated monitor, your editing software, and yourself as an instrument. So what are we up to now? 6? 6. When you do flub a line, you do not have to start over from the beginning. You only need to go back to just before you gummed it up, a convenient break point, if you will, and redo it without bothering to stop and then restarting the camera. That's because editing software has become so powerful that if, and this is a big if, you can position yourself as closely to exactly as you were at the point you messed up like I just did, pausing the prompter, backing up, and then giving it another go with as close to an identical inflection and cadence as you had when you did flub the line as well. Something like Final Cut Pro 10's flow transition can be used to blend the before and after clips so seamlessly that even the sharpest eyed among us won't be able to pick it up. Unless something else is happening in the frame, as one peregrine falcon of a viewer pointed out in one of my videos a few years back. See if you can spot what he did. Equally true with the L-mount Alliance. Full stop. That's kind of it. The key to successfully positioning yourself, in my experience, is to have a big monitor right in front of you. Forget about flippy screens, as close to in line with your eyes as possible, so you can see yourself as you flub the line so that you can recreate that pose after you've stopped the prompter and rewound it a bit. The monitor needs to be big enough and close enough that your peripheral vision will be sufficient to determine your approximate position within the frame. I'm talking head angle, distance from the camera, facial expressions like, say, a raised eyebrow, all of these things. I do this all the time. And sure, it takes practice, but it does become second nature. Seven. All that's left for us to discuss at this point is what you may have thought would take up most of this video, right? Making sure you've got a good teleprompter. The thing of it is, a teleprompter is, for YouTubers especially, several things. A, it's typically an iOS or Android device upon which your script is displayed and scrolled. B, it's an iOS or Android app that allows you to upload your script and manage it on that device. C, it's a remote controller for that app on that device, typically either a dedicated, inconspicuous Bluetooth controller or a second smart device, like another smartphone or tablet. And finally, D, it is the thing between the smart device and the camera, essentially a bridge, something to secure the smart device to the camera, which also houses a pellicle mirror set to 45 degrees, which reflects the scrolling text so that you can see it, the camera directly behind the mirror, to record as you put BBC News readers to shame. But for simplicity's sake, for now, let's just call this last thing your teleprompter. What are the characteristics to look for when buying one of those? First, it should be as futz-free as possible. This means most especially minimal setup and takedown time, and reliance on just about anything other than a spring-loaded clamp to keep the smart device in place, because I can almost guarantee it will snap back on you at some point, and when it does, it won't be pleasant. Second, the prompter should be as small and lightweight while consistent with providing the visibility you need. You want to put as little stress on the lens or camera mount as possible, especially when, say, it's permanently attached, like mine is here in the Batcave for these talking head videos, or when you're out in the field, where not only do you want to minimize stress on the lens or camera mount, but you want it to take up as little luggage or backpack space as possible, and you want to be as unobtrusive as possible, especially when going full guerrilla style filmmaking. Third, You want to minimize light leaks or reflections, both at the point where the lens and prompter meet, but also on the sides between the smart device and the pellicle mirror. This is especially important outdoors when the light is very bright. Fourth, and this is something that I've never seen anyone talk about, you want as much screen real estate as possible when using appropriate large font sizes so that there is more of the script displayed than you are actually speaking at any point in time. Once again, this is about peripheral vision, but more importantly, this is about having room to riff, sometimes nothing more than changing the cadence without having to pause the scroll, to stay in the zone, in the flow. Fifth, you not only want that screen real estate for riffing, but for placing the prompter far enough away from that cute little punum of yours so that you don't look like a crazy person about to burst blood vessels as your eyes dart back and forth. So let's talk a bit about the Parrot Pro. I'm using it right now with my iPhone 14 Pro. And while I am used to a larger screen, I've used an iPad mini for years, and I wish there were a bit more screen real estate vertically on the Pro. The Pro is dramatically larger than the original Parrot, and allows me to see the full width of my iPad, if not quite as many lines as I'm used to vertically. But it is doing the business. The inclusion of individual threaded mounting discs ranging from 37 to 82 millimeter means there's an excellent light seal behind the prompter, and assuming your lens and lens mount are sufficiently robust, it is dead simple to set up and take down. We're talking seconds. Although there will be times when I know I'll want to do something about light coming in from the sides. This is an issue common to many prompters. The tray to hold a smartphone is easily adjustable, and there are folding positioning tabs to ensure your smartphone is centered. All good for smartphone users, to be fair, the Pro's target market, but Padcaster would have to make a few changes to make it ideal for my iPad mini 5, which I still prefer. The Parrot Pro also comes with a Bluetooth remote, I just mentioned it, that just plain works, either with the free app that's available via download or other apps that achieve the same thing. For now, I'm sticking with the app I know, even if the Parrot app is pretty full-featured. That's it. A number of tips I hope you found useful, and a story I hope you found informative and maybe a little bit entertaining. A big shout out to Padcaster, and do check them out on Kickstarter.